Welcome, action fans, and thanks for joining us for another edition of All 90s Action All the Time as we continue this year's look at the highs and lows of action cinema in 1995. I'm your host, Scott Murphy, and this month we are going to talk about a little film called Sudden Death. And I'm going to be entirely honest with you, listener. This episode has been somewhat difficult. There's been many hurdles. It has been cancelled twice through illness. There has been a couple of lineup changes, but we managed to get it together. We've got a solid lineup now. So you've probably missed them coming at the halfway point of the year. The mighty return of my co-host, Mr. Craig Draheim. Craig,
What do
you're
I
back.
want? World peace, an end of bigotry, and no more mini malls.
One
How
of
you
the
doing?
best. One of Powers Boothe many great lines in this movie. Yes, great, Craig, and I hope you're doing. Are you doing well, Craig? Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I had the same. Well, based on when we're recording now, I've had kind of since the start of the year, sickness after sickness going through my house, and so it's like every time we think we're better, a new thing comes through and just wipes myself, my partner, and our kids out.
Jeez, yeah, I hate when that happens. Yeah, it's terrible. But I'm glad you're much better now. I'm glad you're much better now, and I'm also very glad to see the return of Mr. Adam Stovall, who we've had many times previously on this podcast and the previous podcast that I did, New Horror Express and its spin-off, the Guilty Pleasures podcast. Welcome again, Adam. First time in a couple of years.
Everybody's an expert. Thank you for having me back. It's been a little bit. I had to we got done kind of with promoting the movie, and
Hmm.
I needed to take a little time to myself. So I did kind of wasn't really talking to many people. I moved back home to Cincinnati. I was living in New York for a few years. Yeah, so just some kind of big life changes necessitated me stepping back a little bit. But we're on the other side of that, so things are good, and I'm excited to be here talking to you guys again.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's great to have you back, Adam. And yes, this is the kind of the classic lineup I think of. Yeah, absolutely. So on to today's film. I'll give my usual stats and info on the film, which was released on December 22nd, 1995, so just before Christmas. It was directed by Peter Hyams, who is probably most famous for directing the likes of Capricorn 1, Outland, 2010, uh, the 2010, the follow up to 2001: A Space Odyssey, and also he directed Van Damme's previous 1994 outing, Time Cop. The screenplay was by Gene Quintano, whose probably his most notable credits include the likes of Police Academy 3 and 4 and National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1. And the script was also based on a story by Karen Baldwin, who is not generally a screenwriter, but we'll get more into the background of who Karen Baldwin is. But she was also a producer on several films, including the likes of Ray, Sahara, and Death Sentence. This is kind of random films you might remember if you were around in the mid 2000s.
Jesus, that
Um,
sentence had like a half-life.
Yeah.
It was like Ray, Academy Award-winning movie. Uh, Sahara, I've heard of that. Death
Yeah.
sentence. Hmm.
yeah, that's right. That was like the kind of I don't know, like the ones I'd heard of, that she produced, I was like, oh, I kind of heard of that. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
no, it is like, yeah, kind of like prestige movie, random Matthew McConaughey film, um, Death Wish knockoff starring Kevin Bacon. Sure,
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Which the big promotion behind that, I think, was a James Wan, or there was some connection to like, oh, it's
Yeah,
made by the Saw guys, and
yeah, I think it's. I
that's all
think
I remember.
yeah, that's right. It's a James. Yeah, I think he directed it. I think James Wan directed it. Yeah.
We're not thinking of Dead Silence.
No, I'm pretty sure. No, I'm pretty sure he did both.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I know. Yeah, Dead Silence is the puppet movie, but I think I'm gonna double check this. This is always the best bit of podcasting where somebody frantically Googles something. You know.
Honestly, man, like I love it when that people are doing that now because it used to drive me insane. Like the early days of podcasting, I was working
Yeah.
third shift at DHL and I would listen to all these podcasts and people were just wrong all the time and no one ever checked anything. So I love that people Google now.
Yeah.
Yes. Fresh from Wikipedia, Death Sentence is a 2007 American vigilante action thriller film directed by James Wan and starring Kevin Bacon. Yeah.
There we
So
go.
there we
There we go.
go. So he did.
Malignant is 1 degree away from Kevin Bacon.
That is true. That is true. We've won the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, and we're only
Yeah.
10 minutes into the game, and we're only
Yeah.
10 minutes into the podcast.
Yes.
Well done, everyone. Did I have any other stats? Yes, I did. Rating wise, it currently holds 51% on Rotten Tomatoes based on 37 reviews. It doesn't have a Metacritic score. It's got a 5.9 out of 10 on IMDb, which is pretty solid actually for a lot of the movies we cover. And it's got a 3.0 exactly out of 5 on Letterboxd. Lastly, it made $64 million off a $35 million budget, which isn't amazing, but I do think it was quite a big hit on video, like a lot of these kind of movies that we cover are. So, yes, that is sudden death. Now, I guess before we get into the conversation on the movie, usually when we've got a guest on and we're covering one of the big action stars, usually we talk about their relationship to said action star, how many movies he's seen, and their appreciation or whatever. And this podcast was going to include some celebration of said action star who is lead in this film. But this podcast was recorded in April. You will be listening to this in June, and the podcast would have gone very differently if we had recorded one of the times that we had to cancel, because this week certain news broke about allegations against Van Damme, very, very serious allegations against Van Damme, which the way it was worded in several articles was he had slept with 5 women that he knew to be trafficked. I think that is a generous way to write it up. I mean, I don't think women who have been trafficked that have been trafficked can offer consent. So he has sexually assaulted um, these women, and it's a terrible story. If if true, it seems very serious. Like I said, the story, as we record, has only broken this week, so there's very little detail other than that headline. Essentially, I'm sure more things might have come out by June. I did wonder whether to just minimize our Van Damme chat and not address this, but I felt that even though we are an action movie kind of nostalgia celebration podcast, and we're mainly about good times and kind of enjoying these action movies or making fun of these action movies or enjoying them and making fun of them at the same time. Um, Sometimes we have to look at these things, or we have to address them as best we can within the kind of time frame and scope that we have. So yeah, I thought like I would mention that up top, and I don't know, like, what your guys' reaction was when you saw those incredibly depressing headlines that came out just a couple of days ago. Adam?
Um, I mean, after the last few years, it it doesn't. I think there was a time it would have felt unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sadly, it doesn't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That and I mean that's a terrible thing to say. Uh, but it's we get kind of numbed to things.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's, like, I mean, when was JCVD? 2010? Like, it's been so long since we really talked about Van Damme at all
Mm-hmm.
that, it's like, yeah, he's on the, he's in the headlines again, but not for doing splits or anything. Um, yeah, I just hadn't really thought about him in a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we made plans to record this episode, and I I rewatched the movie this morning.
Mm-hmm.
But the other night I saw that headline and clicked on it because I was like, well, I'm gonna need to know what this is if we're talking about him on Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
Sunday where you are. Um, yeah, I mean, his movies featured in a lot of like my friends getting together and like spending the night at somebody's place and watching a bunch of movies. Like Bloodsport showed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Universal Soldier showed, a bunch. Time Cop, I mean, he was genuinely big in the 90s, and that was when I was really coming up. That's when I kind of developed as a cinephile, but was just watching everything, as you could tell by every time I've been on this podcast. Like, this is a movie that I saw opening weekend in the theater. So yeah, it's depressing, but like I said, it doesn't feel unexpected anymore. Um, Especially like he never really seemed like a person that he's not Keanu Reeves. Like, I never heard, for as big as he was, I never heard anybody talk about his,
Mm-hmm.
magnanimous nature or, like anything like that. He was just a flexible guy that would take the script that Schwarzenegger and Stallone said no to.
I
Um,
I know what you mean, and I
yeah.
know that like there is like a numbing effect. So like in some ways, it's like it's not surprising. I still find it disappointing, and I don't. And I agree with you that like while I've not heard, well, while post his cocaine addiction, I've not heard many terrible stories about Van Damme. It doesn't feel as shocking as say something like the like the Neil Gaiman stuff that came out
Yes,
at
exactly.
Yeah.
at the tail end of last year. Like it doesn't feel as shocking as that.
But-
Because like I certainly am aware. Like there was some years back there was a kind of Van Damme reality show called Behind Closed Doors, which I watched a couple episodes of, and there's like definitely an episode where he goes to like a guns range with some um, associates that don't seem like on the up and up, kind of,
Yeah.
so like I certainly I was aware that he had like maybe associations with people who were not exactly on the right side of the law all the time, but yeah, it's still very disappointing, even if it's not, even if it doesn't have quite that same overwhelming shock like the gaming stuff had. Craig, I felt like you wanted to come in there.
Oh yeah, no, I mean I'm kind of in the same boat as both of you. It's a horrible thing to say, and that happened, but it's also I, I don't know, maybe yeah, because of the overstimulation or the being kind of hit with all of these so much over the past several years, and then especially since you bring up somebody like Neil Gaiman, where here was this guy that was like a he even considered himself a a self women's champion, and so on and so forth, and so great to creating like these female characters, and you know, so it feels like this weird complete flip where um, having somebody like Van Damme, where it I don't know how to phrase it of not that like it's a different breed of like the old school way would be like, oh, it's a different breed of man, but it's like this group of people that you're like, oh, like
Well, people like
it's
Gaiman
horrible. Yeah,
or Joss Whedon, when we, like
yeah,
they present as these very open-hearted people. It seems like their nature is to be accepting and inclusive and welcoming and very empathetic. So
Mm.
it is just so terribly, I mean, disappointing doesn't cover it.
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
It feels like you've been betrayed in your bones, and Jean-Claude Van Damme having the same headlines happen about him doesn't.
yeah.
And yeah, that sucks.
yeah. I mean, like for like I definitely agree. I definitely agree. I think like I had this, with the. I mean, obviously the Whedon allegations are different to the Gaiman allegations, but
Yeah.
in both sets of circumstances, like I had the same similar. I was very invested in both those people's work, and like I and as as people as well, and I like that felt like a kind of, like you said, like a kind of visceral betrayal, which this which this doesn't. I agree, because I guess I always assumed that Van Damme might not be exactly the most chivalrous, and might be, as Craig mentioned, of of a mentality that we might, kind of too generously diminish as being old school, or some of the things that have come out about the likes of Arnie and stuff like that, who's not being
Yeah.
accused of like any sort of rape or anything, but he's certainly accused of being kind of handsy and grabbing, bums and boobs when he shouldn't have, kind of thing, at times when he was younger. And
And exploiting the power dynamic with his maid.
yes,
Yeah.
and definitely doing that as well. So like, like I guess like it wouldn't have surprised me if Van Damme had done similar stuff like that, which is gross in itself. Like we shouldn't diminish that either. I guess we shouldn't like just kind of write that off as like, like it's a different time. Like that's also gross. But I guess there is levels to grossness. Um,
Oh, of course.
you know, um, so yeah, it's I guess I kind of always assumed that maybe he had a bit of a sleazy side to him, but I guess that it was still disappointing. I didn't think it was that,
To that
this
level.
to this level of truly abhorrent. You know,
And just to be clear, because I'm hearing this like going out to people,
mm,
all of it, and just to be extremely clear, we are not in any way diminishing the allegations.
no, no,
This is
absolutely
like
not,
when we say it's not
absolutely not.
surprising, it is. It's unfortunate that we're referring to the character of the person at the center of this, as it has been presented to the public for decades. But I just want to make absolutely certain that it is clear that if these allegations are correct, or are true, excuse me, it is it's a really horrific thing that he did. Um, and I just don't want there to be any ambiguity.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I think that's an important point to make. Because like, both on the level of like, yes, we might be saying like not entirely surprising, but that doesn't lessen the abhorrent nature of it. And also, yes, I mean, thinking about how this goes out to people, I definitely don't want people to be confused or have any ambiguity of like, I don't want to be that guy on the podcast who's like, "Wah," like,
Yeah.
I just care about how this impacts my fandom. Like real, real people are involved. Like the most
Yeah.
important people are the women who have not been named in any of the articles so far,
Right.
like their safety is absolutely paramount. I hope that they are no longer in the situation they were when they were
Hmm.
trafficked to Van Damme, and that is absolutely the most important thing. You know, way more important than any impact on fandom or disappointment we have on a celebrity figure being revealed to be another monster. That is the number one thing, and I don't want any ambiguity around that. You know, like yes, it's disappointing for us, but you know, that is just a grain of sand compared to the real life human misery that these women have been going through. So, like, yeah, I want to make that clear as well in case any of the conversation so far has come off as being kind of like that, kind of wallowing in self pity of like, oh, this is another celebrity that we can't look up to or whatever, you know, like any of
Right.
that bullshit. Um,
Let's
so
talk about a mindless action movie now. How
Yeah.
about that?
yeah. I was gonna say, I think we've gone as far in that conversation as we can go. Given the scope of the podcast, we are a silly movie podcast. We are not an investigative journalism news outlet, and I hope that we've given that segment the due that is deserved, and I hope that it is come across thoughtful. And if anything that I said in that part of the section of the podcast came across as thoughtless or anything like that, you know, I'm happy to hear feedback from people, and I'm happy to kind of yeah, take
Yeah,
that on board. And anything anybody has to say on that. But as Adam
absolutely.
said, we kind of we convened to talk about a mindless action movie. So I think we'll get into to doing that now. So Adam, we'll kick off with you. You said this. You watched this on opening weekend. Yeah, do you remember your experience of that? What you thought of it at the time? Like
Oh yeah. My friends and I all went. So 1995 was sophomore junior year of high school. Um, and my friends and I were big hockey kids. We played street hockey, we played ice hockey. I played goalie a lot. And we went to this because it was Jean-Claude Van Damme and it was a hockey movie. Let's do this.
mm,
And we left. We went to, I believe, the Showcase Cinemas in Erlanger, Kentucky. And we left upset because we felt that they had really phoned in the hockey.
okay, okay. So you weren't a big fan of the movie on initial watch.
No.
Mm.
Um, well, I'll be very honest. Like I remember the night after. I remember going to Taco Bell afterwards and like
Uh-huh.
talking about it and that I don't really like rewatching it this morning. I had moments of like I know I've seen this,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't remember this at all.
Mm.
And I could like, kind of forensically recreate the night, but it's just a black hole. I have no memory of actually watching this movie with my friends. I just remember shit talking it afterwards with them.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll get. Well, I guess over the course of the podcast, we'll get into if your mind
Hmm.
has been changed at all. If the you know if you've seen the charm of this movie, but maybe not. But we'll get into that, and we'll get Craig's thoughts first. So
Okay.
Craig, what was your first interaction with this movie, and what did you think of it at the time?
Weirdly enough, having Am go first, it like was similar in that I know I didn't see it in theaters, but I know my brother would have rented it basically right after it was released on VHS and watching it.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I watched it for the sake of this podcast, I was in the same boat of going, I don't remember. I know I've seen this movie, but I don't remember anything about this. And like, yeah, continuing watching it, and that was about it. Like, I can't. It felt like a first time watch, even though I know for sure I've seen it.
Okay. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. I've seen this a few times. I guess and yeah, no, I think yeah, I think it's pretty good. I've always rated it quite highly. I think it's a very fun movie, and I do like. I mean, I do have a soft spot for Die Hard knockoffs. I guess if people are not aware of this movie, basically you can sum up this movie as like it's Die Hard at the Stanley Cup Finals. That's what it is. So yeah, and I think it is one of the. I would put this up there with Under Siege as one of the best Die Hard knockoffs. Maybe that's overrating it a bit, but no, I've always really enjoyed it, so I've seen it a few times. And because of the rescheduling of this podcast, I watched it twice in the last month, so I'm definitely across it. Um, so yeah, no, that's real interesting. That like it's essentially kind of first time watches for both you guys, even though you have both seen it before, so it's second time, but it feels like a first time. That's pretty cool.
I I do
Yeah,
think though, going into the Die Hard knockoff, that this one
uh-huh.
felt like at least Under Siege, like it was a Die Hard knockoff, but it had its own little quirks. Where watching this, there are points where like, wow, this is like a very like mirror of a section of Die Hard. Like it felt,
It
All right, yeah,
it
yeah,
feels
yeah, yeah.
very by the numbers.
I
yeah.
guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. I guess so.
And I'm sorry, Scott. I know that you just said you like this movie. I really don't, and I'm not going to be all that generous about it.
Sure.
Uh,
Okay. No, that's that's
because,
that's all right. I
but
just think
yeah.
it's really fun. But like, yeah. Okay. No, that's
Yeah.
that is totally fine. Like,
Cool.
dissent is allowed. I'm not.
All right.
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not the Trump of action podcasting. I don't expect pure loyalty at all times.
Excellent.
So no, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Great stuff. I guess it makes for an interesting conversation. So yeah. Now it's interesting. Like I guess like maybe we'll talk about the sport element first, because I think that's interesting that both of you guys played ice hockey as kids and have a relationship to ice hockey growing up that I didn't have. Ice hockey is not that big a sport in Scotland, and yeah, it never really. I can name like maybe I was saying before the podcast. I can name like maybe two ice hockey players. Like I remember, I know who Wayne Gretzky is,
Hmm.
because he's like the most famous Canadian sports person. Even though disappointing Canadians right now, I feel like
Scott, I love you. Sports person
uh,
or athlete.
yeah, or athlete, yeah, yeah, athlete, yeah. I should have just said athlete, I guess. But like like they get called sports people as well.
Yeah.
Weirdly, like I'm a big fan of other sports. Like if we were here talking about football, or as you mad Americans like to call it, soccer, like I'd be all over that conversation. I know all about football. Um, like yeah, I don't know why I so clunkily said that. Yeah, athlete. But like sometimes I get because like there's the BBC have an award that's called the Sports Personality of the Year award, and sometimes they get called sports person. Like that's they refer to that sometimes.
Oh yeah, because it used to be
Yeah.
sportsman, they
Yeah,
would say, and
Yeah.
then they eventually had to admit that women exist, so they changed it to
yeah,
sports person.
sports person. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So sometimes they refer to that, particularly.
Sports people sounded very like sports ball to me, which
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
in the
yeah. No,
film
no.
world, there's a
Yeah,
lot of people that say sports ball, so
yeah.
it
Okay.
didn't sound weird at all.
All right. All right. Cool. Cool. All right. Okay. So I am yes. despite the fact his popularity has really plummeted since Trump got reelected. Wayne Gretzky, I'm aware of him, and also weirdly, I know Craig, you come from Michigan.
Yep.
There was a brief period where I was kind of aware of ice hockey. There was in the 90s there was a show on Channel 4 called Trans World Sport that would show you different sports from around the world. And at that stage in the late 90s, I remember uh, uh, your Detroit Red Wings player Sergei Fedorov being
Yep.
famous athlete, famous
Yeah.
Russian athlete. So I remember him. So yeah, but beyond that, I couldn't name an ice hockey player.
I mean, that was, yeah, during that time, it was like Chicago had the Bulls, and then Detroit had the
Hmm.
Red Wings of like the dream
Yeah,
team, basically.
Yep.
yeah, for sure. And I can name a number of basketball players. I'm much more au fait with basketball. That's the American sport that I normally watch. Um, uh, yeah. Anyway, so
I'll have to make Die Hard at a basketball game one day, and then we can get on here and talk about
that'd be
Yeah.
cool. That'd be cool. Yeah, Die Hard at a basketball game. Yeah. I guess you wouldn't be able to do the same thing that this movie does, where the action hero gets on the court. Like, I mean,
Oh, we'll get into that.
but
Yep.
yeah. So, in case people aren't aware, this movie was kind of created as like a propaganda piece for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the co-owners of the Penguins at the time, the Baldwins, no relation to the film acting family, Karen and Howard.
Howard.
Yeah, Karen and Howard Baldwin. They kind of developed this movie. Karen wrote the story for it. Howard was the producer, and they were producers of the movie,
Mhm.
and that's why they were allowed to film in a real ice hockey arena, because they owned the team.
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
so
Howard actually got like a two-picture or like a 2-year deal
yeah,
with the studio out of this with Universal.
yeah. So yeah, no, you're absolutely correct, and there is actually some interesting kind of histories on this film that I found on an ice hockey website. It tells you about like the structure of how they filmed the games and stuff like that. And originally they were going to film with the two teams that were actually in the movie, but then that became impossible, and then they filmed two games. One with the actual Penguins against the Cleveland Lumberjacks, who must be like a minor league team, and then another game was filmed for some of the other shots between two ECHL sides, which I guess must be a minor league.
Yeah, it's the
Yep.
league. So there's the National Hockey League,
Yeah.
there's the International Hockey League, and then
Uh-huh.
there's the East Coast Hockey League.
Okay, great. And that was the Wheeling Thunderbirds and the Jonestown Chiefs, who played that game. So some of the shots are from that game, and some of the shots are from the one where the actual Penguins played the Cleveland Lumberjacks.
And I think I saw somewhere that the game with the actual Penguins and the Lumberjacks, very little of that footage used because
Mostly,
there was no
yeah.
intensity in the play.
Yes. It was very yes, it wasn't played at full capacity. Yeah, I think yeah, it was very much played like a kind of off season game, I think, and I think most of the shots you see are actually from the other game between the Thunderbirds and the Chiefs. Yeah, but and it sounds pretty grueling because it says that they filmed over a few nights. Players were playing 4 to 5 hours a night. So yeah, they did a lot. Like, even though you might not be happy with the ice hockey scenes, they did a lot of work on them.
Right.
um, so yeah, and I guess like on like the sport aspect of it, I don't know. It is difficult to watch sports films as a sport fan, whatever sport you're a fan of, because like invariably films will get things wrong. And like I guess like it depends how much of an issue that is for you, and how much that might impact your enjoyment. Like for example, if you're a fan of boxing, Rocky is ridiculous. You know, like I mean,
Yes.
you know, generally in boxing they have a thing called defense. They don't generally defend with their chin. Like
Yeah.
that's not usually a strategy. Like, so yeah, yeah, like so sport often looks funny on film. I mean, certainly as a football fan, you know, like yeah, like for some reason, I think football is very exciting in real life, or can be. It's not always. Sometimes it's very boring. But yeah, it's never. For some reason, it's just not cinematic, or I've not seen it made really cinematic. I don't know. So I know you have strong feelings about the how ice hockey is portrayed in this film, Adam, and we'll get to that. But I was wondering, Craig, how do you feel as somebody else who also has a casual following to ice hockey or was a big fan
Yeah.
as a kid? Like what is your feeling?
Um, I get so I mean it was frustrating in that, especially when I mean obviously I'm gonna jump ahead when he gets onto the ice as a goalie. Like I the whole time I'm thinking I can imagine being like if I was a professional hockey player watching this, if you're like, oh, okay. Um, so he's just kind of able to stop all these guys and that. But what's interesting with hockey on film is it's pre what I've noticed is it's pretty much just showing the like smashing them against the boards is like the big thing, which it it does happen, but
Mm.
I don't know. It to me, it's I almost just tuned it out with this one. When there's,
Hmm.
I kept searching for the action moments, and then you have this whole section in this movie. Again, watching it for the first but not first time, I'm like, oh, this is a long beat of this movie where we're just watching him in the game. This isn't like just like, oh, the game's going on and they're like, here's all the action. That's yeah.
I know what you mean because, like, I've not watched a lot of ice hockey, but I've watched a lot of films that are about ice hockey, including this and The Goon and The Mighty Ducks and Slapshot. And, like, yes, it mainly does seem to be slamming people against the boards and body checks and people fighting and stuff like that. So, like, that's the way movies tend to portray ice hockey. And, like, so it's certainly in line with other ice hockey movies I've seen. I mean, would you disagree with that, Adam?
Uh, I mean, the key difference in
Uh-huh.
what we're talking about is that those movies were really about hockey and about the culture
Sure.
of hockey
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the players were people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In this, we get the absurd scene of a security guard taking his kid into the locker room before game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, and the players being like, cool, come on over here. Like, there's just no way. It's the biggest game of their lives.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah.
so yeah, like we don't get, I mean, I feel like usually in a movie like this, one player is kind of designated as the like audience surrogate on the team. And we get to like Luke Robitaille, who's like in this movie. Like we would follow him a little bit. We would see him do really well. We would see, he would react to something. And obviously, a big part of this is that they're not the actual Penguins and they're not the actual Chicago Blackhawks. But
Mm-hmm.
it's so much of this movie felt perfunctory to me.
Mm-hmm.
So much of the blocking felt. I mean, we said earlier, felt by the numbers as a diehard at a hockey rink.
Mm-hmm.
The but like the disregard, the fact that it came from the owners and that it was started as like, look at how awesome our arena is, and the movie's going to be called Arena. It was never about the team, and
Mm-hmm.
that's going to leave me cold because the players are far more interesting than the person that signs the front of the check to me.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And um yeah, and there's like a big um yeah, there's like a big difference of like how American sport works and like how like British sport works and stuff like that. Cuz like I did find that mental, like the first time I was kind of watching, got into like American sports and like basketball and I guess American football a little bit. And like the whole thing of like the trophy being presented to the owner and stuff like that. Because like
Yeah.
up until recently, up until like the last 20 years, with like certain owners kind of becoming famous, I guess, like Roman Abramovich, or who no longer owns Chelsea because of dodgy Russian money. But anyway, that's a whole other issue. But nobody is like presenting like the Premier League trophy to the owner, or the Champions League trophy to the
Right. It
it's
goes to the
like
manager,
Yeah.
right?
it goes to the manager, and then like the captain, and then like it's like
Mhm.
so like that whole thing of like the way owners are in American sport has always been bizarre to me. And I guess like that's because I grew up with like British sport culture, so like it just baffles me. I never kind of yeah, it never kind of made sense. And I totally agree. Like, I think like there has been like a more Americanization of kind of all sports. So like we do talk a lot more about the corporate side of things and the ownerships and stuff like that in a way that we didn't when I was a kid.
Right.
And that is, yeah, it's pretty
Well,
depressing to be
when
honest.
we were kids, access journalism wasn't nearly what it is now. So,
Yeah.
not only do a lot of these leagues and associations own their own channel,
Yeah.
where it's just literally propaganda. It's just what
Mm.
they want to talk about and how great they are. But then even the non, league owned entities like ESPN, um, it's you've still got, well, we want to be on the good side of this team so that we can have access to the players and the managers, the coaches, da 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 da. And the owner can kick you out. The owner can block you from entering.
Yeah.
So like the idea of staying on their good side, it's all that access journalism that has sadly seeped into the greater culture and not just here in America.
Yeah, which is yeah, it's all pretty depressing, the way things have kind of headed like that.
we
For sure.
we struggle with boss culture in this country.
Yeah. Well, even you look at, I don't know, I, all of these shows that keep coming out, and I keep getting recommended them of where they're sports related, but it focuses purely on the owner or whoever. And I'm trying to watch them and like them because I'm told the one about with John C. Riley, I can't even think of the name now, with John C. Riley coaching the LA
Oh,
or
winning time.
owning. Yes, I'm told it's good, but also I'm sitting there going, I would rather see the like players, the ones that are doing the work, or
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I,
but
I
that's
think like
how yeah.
I think on that particular instance, I didn't watch the second season of that, but I did watch the first season of that, and it does an all right job because it's not just it is, as much as John C. Reilly, he's good in the role or whatever. Yeah, I don't really care much about that, but it does like a relatively decent job of also focusing on like like
Magic and Kareem.
Okay.
Magic and Kareem, and also like also like the Pat Riley as the coach. Like Adrian Brody plays.
Well, Paul Westhead as the coach, Pat Riley is the assistant
That's
coach.
right. That's right.
Yep.
That's right. That's right. He didn't become coach till later. Yes, that's right. Yes, 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 yes. No, he's coach at the time. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
But like the focus on the Magic Kareem relationship, and also the coaching staff relationship, and yes, Pat being the assistant at the time. Like yeah, so the those relationships are the more interesting relationships in the show, and thankfully they concentrate on them as much as like the kind of John C. Riley stuff, so
Okay.
I think that's what makes it like that's what made season one enjoyable for me. Yeah, so I would still recommend it. I'd not seen season two, so I don't
Okay.
know if it keeps up that or it focuses more. Um, so I guess yeah, we've talked a lot about the politics of ice hockey, like way more than I thought. We've kind of
Yeah.
like
It's our new spin-off.
well, actually, funnily enough, right? Just quick sidebar in amongst all the other sidebars. Um, I've got Disney Plus, and in New Zealand they've just added ESPN to Disney Plus.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh.
now I could watch ice hockey if I wanted to. I'll probably mainly just watch it for like I'm a wrestling fan, so I'll watch AEW, and also
Ah.
I'll probably just watch like Lakers games and stuff. But I might also
You have the opportunity.
I might also dive into some ice hockey if yeah.
Well, Alex Ovechkin's about to break Wayne Gretzky's scoring record, so
Is that right?
Worth-
I
worth
don't know
watching
who
the
that
Capitals.
is, but I'm excited
Yeah.
for him.
another famous Russian.
Another famous Russian. Yeah, I know that's one of the other countries that ice hockey is
Yeah.
big.
Oh, yes.
So cool.
Do you know where the first organized hockey game was played?
The first organized ice hockey game was it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna guess it's either gonna be like Canada or Russia or maybe somewhere random like Finland. I know like in Northern Europe it's also big. So like, but I'll go for Canada.
Craig, do you have a guess?
I feel like in the back of it's one of those things in the back of my mind that I know it, and I'm gonna say the wrong answer, but I feel it's somewhere in Northern Europe. I'm gonna go. I can't think it now.
Oh, is it like Finland or Norway or something? Because I know it's big, like in like the Scandinavian
I know
countries.
it's gonna be wrong when I say. I'll just throw out somewhere in Scandinavia, but I know I'm
Okay.
wrong.
Wales.
What?
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Wales.
It was the first time that two teams were organized into a hockey match and tickets were actually sold, and the game ended when the ice broke.
Really?
Yes, I found this story recently and have been kind of thinking about it as a script to write.
Huh.
Yep.
That'd be a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I like, yeah, amazing. Wales. I definitely wouldn't have guessed Wales. You could have given me 100 guesses, and I would have.
I was surprised too.
Yeah. I would have, yeah, I would have guessed like Canada or the US or Russia or any of the Scandinavian countries. I would have probably named a number of Central European countries, but like before I got anywhere near to Wales. So like, yeah, that is surprising. But cool fact.
Mhm.
Did they see, we're teaching people things on this podcast. You know,
That's
like,
right.
I came in-
Edutainment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I came into such a horrible word, but yes, I came into fucking. I went to. I had I've got a journalism degree, and just like some of the phrases, man, just fuck.
Oh
me.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's great. I came into this podcast knowing really nothing about ice hockey, apart from the handful of ice hockey movies I've seen and the couple of players that I've said I know, and yeah. That's fun. That's
By the time we're done here, you can go to a pub and sound like a learned individual.
I will
Yeah.
be I will be all yeah, which will be of no use to me because like
In New Zealand.
I live in New Zealand where the main sports are rugby and cricket, and they're like, why are you? Who is Luke Robitaille? Like, what are you talking about? Who cares that the first ice hockey game was in Wales? We don't want like what. Like, do you know anything about cricket yet? No, I've been living here for like nearly 4 years now. I still know nothing. I have watched rugby most of my life because I grew up in Scotland, but like,
Right.
but no, I still know nothing about cricket. Very much an English game. I don't care about it. I'm sorry.
My buddy Patrick Willems does explainer videos on YouTube,
Yeah.
and he went to India a couple years ago and came back. Like we went to a minor league baseball game together, and he just spent the entire time telling us about cricket because he went to a cricket match when he was in India and learned all the rules.
Excellent. Well, I
Yeah.
tell you what, right? I tell you what. Quick rant. People say, you know, when people bring up football, people like act as if the offside rule is like so like complex, like it's this mighty physics equation or whatever, and like, oh, how can I possibly understand the offside rule? It's not. I mean, it's complicated in the sense they keep kind of slightly changing it in terms of the body position of what makes you offside, but the basic principle of it is not that complicated. If you try and get somebody to describe the Duckworth-Lewis method to you, that is a fucking, like, you need a chalkboard and also, like, props, like, it is. I mean, I don't even understand how this came up as a thing. Like, it's absolutely baffling. Yeah, cricket is an, I don't know. I don't know. It like, it's too much for my mind to take. I mean, the rules of cricket, I mean, oh, just give me a simple game like football, like it's simple. It's simple. I mean, it's complicated in some things.
It's a simple game.
It's
You
just a
throw
simple
the
game.
ball, you hit the ball, you catch the ball.
Exactly. That's what we want. We just want simple games with simple rules. For my simple mind. Have we talked about sudden death at all?
No,
we have not.
So it opens.
That is wild. Did you know that Raymond J. Barry is in this movie as the vice president? No, because we've not even got into the first 10 minutes of the film. We've learned a lot about ice hockey. If people are interested in ice hockey, well, they came to the right podcast. Because apparently now we are like an ESPN ice hockey podcast. That's what we are now. It's amazing.
To defend us, there is not a lot of this movie to talk about.
That is true, right? It's a very basic movie. It is one of those movies that is that I don't mind. I don't mind when a movie is a string of action set pieces loosely fitted together. Even some great action movies. Most of the Mission Impossible movies are like that. They are just a series of action set pieces with a loose plot around them. So
Greg, you say we don't have a lot, but I have 3.5 pages of notes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely notes, but I know when I was watching this movie, I watched it, I did not have a drink, I did not have anything. I'm watching it, I'm fully awake, and I'm just saying there, like, did I miss something? Did I like doze off? Because I feel like nothing, he's just been running around these, like under the, like, or in the back for a while or something. Or where's he at now? He's kind of disarming these bombs. Oh, okay. What's happening besides Powers Boothe?
I will be honest. I will be honest with people. Like, they're as much as I really enjoy this film, and I think I have some nostalgia for it that adds to the enjoyment, and I probably overrate it. There is very little happening in this film. Like, basically, we get a mixture of like FBI agents being like kind of killed and like doing things outside and looking at monitors. Then we cut to Powers Boothe doing some monologuing. Then we cut to some ice hockey action. Then we cut to Van Damme defusing some bombs. And that is most of the movie. I'm not going to lie. So yeah, I guess on that front, there's not a lot to talk about. But I mean, Adam has 3.5 pages of notes. So clearly there is a lot to talk about. Conversely, it's one of those things.
So how does the movie start?
We're not going to do the movie chronologically because
thank God.
We've spent the last 3.5 hours on an ice hockey explainer, so like we don't want to make the
well, see, the thing about it is that offense is based on angles and defense is based on disruption.
Wow. I'm so glad this movie wasn't about baseball, because like baseball is even more complicated than this game. So like, as we've explained, the story is Die Hard at an ice hockey game, and
Van Damme was a firefighter.
Van Damme was a we get a brief intro to Van Damme, and he's a firefighter. There is a fire rescue that goes wrong. A little girl dies, and that causes him to have PTSD, which means
my first note.
Okay.
He's not even gonna try CPR.
Apparently not. We have to give him PTSD and make him quit the fire service somehow. So we're doing that in the most efficient way possible, I guess.
Efficient, blunt force, sure. Yeah.
We just had to get there somehow. We got to get him to the ice hockey game, being a fire marshal somehow, and we've got to give him like a kind of backstory.
Not a fire marshal. He's a security guard.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. He is a security guard.
The worst security guard ever.
He's not a good security, but you know, like yeah, no, he's not a good security guard.
I'm going to bring up though something I've been sitting on it for a while and I don't get it, and I know we will probably talk about it, but for some reason it irked me more than there's a lot of things that irked me, I guess, in the movie, but the way the sun was written.
Is the way this
I
podcast
was
is
like,
going to be? Is this going to be? I'm the only one being positive about this film.
yes,
I
I'm
really enjoy
sorry.
it.
We normally agree, Scott, and we're normally
yeah.
like in sync, but this one I think
We're right. It's the ice hockey thing. I think it's the ice hockey thing. If you're an ice hockey fan, you're like, fuck this movie. And if you're
I have issues beyond the ice hockey.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
But the bit, so he's divorced because I guess they're linking it to Die Hard, him like the struggling marriage, even though it plays no role. But when his son sees him, the son is all excited and happy, and it's like he has the tickets for his son and then his daughter, which almost seems like an afterthought at first. But then the son kind of flips. This is one of those moments where I felt like I dozed off, but I didn't, where the son then becomes like the rebellious one. It's like the screw you father type. Like, what happened in the script? Where did that come from? Now the son is this jerk kid, even though like a second ago his father brought him game 7 tickets.
Yeah, he's like so excited to see his dad, and then like 10 minutes later, he's like, he's not even a firefighter. Like, he's not brave enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that stuck with me, but it did. Like, out of all the stuff in this movie, that's like the piece that sticks.
He does kind of flip flop. Yeah, no, I mean, like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, I guess he goes on a similar trajectory as like Rocky's son in Rocky 5, where he's like, he goes from being the nicest boy in the world to going through his rebellious earring phase to reverting to being the nicest boy in the world in like in very quick time. So like I don't know. Yeah, I can't explain that either. That is a definite script issue, and yeah, I've no idea why this kid acts the way he does, and keeps going back and forth of being just like a sweet kid to an absolute brat, and like I've no idea.
It's like some pages are the goldenrod revision and some pages are the buff revision, and there was a change in character between the two, but they didn't collate the revisions.
But it seemed like they were just going to have the son, and then I went, well, maybe it'd be better if like the daughter was the one who gets captured.
Oh, Emily McCord's the true badass in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Yes, she is.
For sure. She's very fun. As the daughter. No, like you say, I think with the divorce and stuff, I think we're just tying it into the kind of Die Hard stuff, and like, I mean, but why we even bother? Because like you say, it has like no impact on the plot at all, and I was like,
it's just.
I kind of thought she would be more in the movie because like I saw her and I was like, oh, that's her from House on Strawberry Row, and then I was like, yep, and we're never seeing her again.
Right, like it's kind of, it almost feels like part of how Hollywood always kind of takes the wrong note from things or the wrong lesson, where when Batman did well in '89, they were like, oh, maybe it's because people like 30s superheroes and serials, like let's bring up the Shadow and the Phantom and the Rocketeer, which is an original piece, but it's in the 30s. And this is like,
as well.
Right, and then like this is like, well, maybe what people liked about Die Hard was the divorce aspect. Like, okay.
Yeah, that is weird. Yeah, we can't not include the divorce. That's highly important to the Die Hard ripoff formula. Is it? Okay, I guess. I don't think it was. I think it's whatever.
Well,
Yeah. So I guess yeah, like wait a second.
life has been a lot of fun the last few years.
Right. So let's get into let's talk about the movie more and talk about some. We started talking about the movie. We've edged into it. We've talked some of the movie. We've talked about the kind of the kids and we've talked about the
While we're
kind
talking about the kids,
of, mm-hmm.
the chef threatening them with violence absolutely squares with my experience of growing up during this time. Adults had no problem threatening you with violence.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I guess that makes sense. No, that runs true to me as well. I don't know if that's so true nowadays, but certainly growing up in the 90s, yeah, I would have been, I don't know, similar age to this kid, I guess, like the boy. I don't know how old the boy is supposed to be. I would have been about 10 in 1995, so I think
That's a pretty good guess, yeah.
so
Yeah.
he's around that age, 10 or 11, I guess. So I'd be similar age to this child. Um so yeah, no, that squares with my experience as well. Like adults were less didn't give as much shits about their behavior in front of
Everybody
children.
didn't have a camera on them all the time and then,
Yeah,
you know.
that is true. So nobody was worrying about that. So yeah,
I,
so beyond.
yeah.
Oh yeah, Craig.
Oh no, I was going to say, I think overall too in this, there is a harshness that I didn't think about, especially with, I know we'll get into it, but all the kind of good characters that they kill off, where normally you'd be like, oh, these people he saves them or whatever, but it just kind of all the side characters are getting blasted throughout the whole thing.
That is very true. That is very true. There is a general level of harshness throughout the movie. Um, yeah, that might be surprising because like it is generally quite a kind of light action movie. It's generally, in fact, there was like rewrites to the script because as far as I understand it, the it started out life as not almost essentially a parody of a Die Hard knockoff. Apparently, it had a much more strongly comedic tone. It still has like a funny tone. There's still humor in here, but pre Van Damme coming onto the project, apparently the script was much more out and out kind of comedic than it is in the finished product before Hyams and Van Damme came onto the project. So I don't know, at what point things change, and if Gene Quintana was part of that process, or he just wrote the kind of comedy version of the script. And I guess like his experience, or like as I kind of said at the top of the podcast, like the most kind of notable things I could find for him were like his work on the Police Academy movies and like Loaded Weapon 1. So I guess that squares with kind of his
Right.
experience as a screenwriter. So like
Well,
it's obviously been retooled.
and like to kind of to your point, Craig, you know, in Die Hard, he kills Mr. Nakamoto, he kills Ennis. Can anyone name the characters that are like the good people that are killed in this movie?
I know it's the chef, his wife, and then the mascot lady. Yeah, I can't name any of them.
And then like in the suite, it's the
Basically, yeah,
vice president's wife, the mayor's wife, the mayor. Like nobody has names, and it
yeah,
kind of speaks to the lack of personality in this movie, I think.
yeah.
I guess so. I guess like the only kind of like characters that we kind of have any real impact is obviously Van Damme in the lead, and then Powers Boothe is a villain, Raymond J. Barry a little bit as the vice president. Um, yeah, no.
Whitney something as
Yeah, no, no,
Emily.
no. Obviously, the kids. Yeah, we've kind of talked about the kids. I
Yeah.
guess like every villain has to have like a tech sidekick. I guess like the tech. I guess the
Yeah.
tech sidekick is given a little bit of personality. Um, although I couldn't have like without looking it up. I couldn't have like immediately said, "Oh yes, Hickey, the computer guy."
Right.
So like yes, no, it is a fair point. A lot of the
But
characters
and
are
I'll say, like, the
fun.
tech guy in this, I remember, I specifically remember liking his entrance because everybody else comes in and it's just like a stunt guy who's just like there to look huge, and then he just kind of like trundles in and doesn't look at the camera, and then like that dude walks in and like looks at all these people just sitting around terrified and like smiles at them, and then sits down. I was like, hey, an actor made a choice. I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, no, that's true. And like I don't really the only thing I really recognize that guy from is like he's in The Mentalist. Um, yeah, but beyond that, I don't really recognize. I've not really seen that much with that
Okay.
actor who plays the hacker guy. The actor being Michael Gaston is his name. Um,
Oh,
yes,
Gaston.
yes, indeed, but not French, I believe. Just a regular old American guy.
Just, but still named for the candelabra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and as much I tell you what, like I don't know if this is like Powers Booth improvised some of his lines or if all these lines were in the script, but he does get some. As much as we're kind of shitting on the script, he does get some great lines, and like um the time where he has like the interactions with the daughter and he has like many funny interactions with the daughter, the Emily McCord character, when he says to her, you know, um what about like what would you do, would you like me to, fill your little mouth with spiders, like that is one of the most hilariously deliciously evil lines I think I've seen in an action movie. I mean, it's just so ridiculous, but the way Powers Booth delivers it is like it makes me laugh out loud each time I've heard it. I've seen this movie a few times.
Bro, yeah, like Powers Booth came to play. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the like as soon as he gets in there, it's like, oh, there's life here. He's genuinely it like I remember at one point thinking like it feels like everybody else viewed this script as a diamond that they couldn't like touch or alter at all. And he
Mm,
like genuinely did the work of like digging in, like, why would this character say this? What are they thinking? Like, because I believe him. And I
mm.
do not believe most people in this movie when they talk. But Powers Booth, I'm like, yeah, I can see this.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. No, I absolutely agree. I think that maybe my enjoyment of this movie I guess my enjoyment of this movie is largely centered around Powers Booth and some of the action set
Mhm.
pieces. Um, I just I think this is genuinely one of the great 90s action villain performances. Like I said it off record, I think there's certain ones like in the 90s, you've got like Alan Rickman as the sheriff of Nottingham in Robin Hood. You've got Tommy Lee Jones in Under Siege. You've got John Malkovich in Con Air. I guess you've got the you know Cage and Travolta taking turns to be the villain in Face Off. Like truly wild, just hitting out the park villain performances. And I think Powers Booth in Sudden Death should be talked alongside that lineup. That is my stand I'm taking on this movie. And as much as you can shit on the movie and you can dislike the movie, if you
Oh,
disagree on this point, then we can't be friends, really.
not at all. I am
I think we can
completely with
agree
you on
on that.
Powers
Yeah.
Booth. Yes.
He's the only thing that I remember still watching it. Like where I'm
Hmm.
thinking back on everything to talk about that isn't me crapping on it. I guess Adam and I teaming up on this. That I'm like, well, I mean, Powers Booth was at it. What was Jean-Claude Van Damme doing at this point?
He
I
was
don't
defusing
remember.
bombs.
But
He's
Powers
always
Booth, yeah,
defusing bombs.
yeah. But Powers
Okay.
Booth, he was chewing scenery, and it was good.
Yes. Okay, the bombs.
Yeah, all right.
Come on. Everybody knows the cliche is, do you cut the red wire or the green wire? Which wire is it? You cut both? You can't even do the cliche. Like, and that's not subverting. There's no tension if it's just cut both. Like, come on.
Well, it seems like it would go faster then too if you could cut both. You would just quickly
Right?
like snip both of them and keep going.
Just run
And
around.
like it gets
He's
us
got
to
a
fake
lot
out,
of
like,
bombs to defuse, man. It's got to be simple, you know?
yeah, he could go faster if he just cut them both at the same time. But I understand that it's setting up that fake out that, like, you know, he flips the switch and there's fireworks or something, but the bomb has been severed. But it's just like, come on, we got to watch him do this so many times, and every time I'm like, both chords, come on, both chords.
We do get a lot, you know, yeah, we do get a lot of repeated shots of like the same diffusing happening.
This is an action movie podcast, and we respect our action cliches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. That is true. I will agree with you on that. Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. We do respect the great rule book of action movies and how things should go down. So and we can respect a good subversion of that. But yeah, you're right. It's not a good subversion of that. So like fair play to you. You've won this round, Adam.
Well, now I'll say too what's interesting because so you have this whole setup where even with Die Hard where it's like he faces one person, there's the fight, scuffle, whatever, moves on, it's like there's the next person in a different venue. Where with this, it's like he faces the woman in the mascot uniform, which I could see now if it was written comedically at first.
Yeah,
Because
no,
there's kind of a silly element to it.
It
Yes.
was. I mean, I think that is. So I guess like script wise, it's a bit of a hodgepodge, and I think that the mascot fight is a remnant from the original script that was more of a kind of parody spoof of these types of movies. And yeah, for some reason, most of what was in the original script in terms of those comedic set pieces was let go, but this was kept. And
Okay.
I can kind of see why it's kept. Like
Oh yeah.
it's tonally quite different from from a lot of the rest of the action in the movie, but it's easily the best martial arts showcase of the movie, and it's the
Yeah.
best choreographed fight of the movie. Because most of the other action is kind of running around, it's gunplay, it's explosions, it's stuff like that. So like, as like a martial arts showcase, which I guess like at the time, you know, like Van Damme's mainly a martial arts star, you want some martial arts in there, and this is the best showcase for it. And yeah, I think it's one of the highlights of the movie, as goofy as it is.
Oh no, there are two things in this movie that I unreservedly love. One is Powers Booth. One is a moment we will get to later. But there's actually a few that I like, and this is one that I like. And it like at the end of the day, I got to watch Jean-Claude Van Damme fight a penguin. Like, yes, movies are alive.
Well, because after that, so he fights another person in the same area,
Oh my
like
God,
a scene
yes.
later, and then and then as you talked about, Scott, all the other kind of action moment, you never kind of reach that height of like the single or one-on-one or one-on-two combat. Like it all kind of then becomes just pure gunplay,
Yeah, and if
and
I'm
not
being
even
honest,
a lot of gunplay. It's like
yeah, I know what you mean. And if I'm being honest, as like somebody who is a big fan of like martial arts movies, and a big fan of action comedy, like this is one of my favorite scenes in the film, and I could have done with more of that, of like more kind of like one-on-one action, a bit more martial arts, a bit more of the kind of comedic fights, and it's like it works in that kind of it's not quite as good as the best of like a like Jackie Chan or whatever, but it works in that similar vein of like it's a it uses its environment well, it is a
Yeah.
bit goofy and fun, and I definitely I could have had more of those types of sequences.
And I think we may have actually already touched on this, but like I can tell you with a fair amount of certainty, with more certainty than I would no otherwise have, that
Mhm.
Jean-Claude Van Damme does not have a sense of humor about himself.
Probably not.
Um, well, I am friends with Paul Wernick and Rhett Reese, who wrote Zombieland,
Hmm.
and the Bill Murray cameo in that movie was originally somebody else. I think it was Sylvester Stallone,
Mm.
and he wouldn't do it, so they were sending it around, and like everybody that got it liked the joke until it was about them, and Jean-Claude Van Damme was one of those that like just understood that there was a joke and then got very upset when suddenly there was a joke about him and not somebody else. Like he
Mm.
didn't seem to understand the scene, but yeah, the man has no sense of humor about himself
What,
whatsoever.
what, yeah, which explains because he did the Amazon show where it was like he played himself, and that was the joke at it that he's kind of a failing or he's on his down of being a movie star and trying to come back, but then it's like to try and make it better. He was also a secret agent. It's like he could only knock himself down too many pegs to then be like, oh well, also I'm a amazing secret agent in my spare time when I wasn't a major action star.
Yeah, like it's why Die Hard hit that magic note was because Bruce Willis has a good sense of humor and can play comedy really well.
Hmm.
Jean-Claude Van
Hmm.
Damme cannot do Death Becomes Her.
A- Absolutely not. Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right on that. Yeah. No, no, absolutely not. So, like, yeah. So Craig, I know obviously you and Adam don't like a whole much about this movie. Were there any other characters that made any impact on you? I think like the only other character really of note that makes any impact on the film is the one of the characters I do remember the name of is the Secret Service agent Matthew Hallmark. And
Yes.
Yeah.
we have a twist about him. I
Yeah.
think like the actor Dorian Harewood does a pretty good
Hmm.
job in his role.
Yeah.
I think he,
Yeah.
in
I
both in both his role as being the ally, and then spoiler alert, we get a twist that actually he's on the villain side, and I enjoyed his performance. I think he's
yeah.
he's one of the better performers in the movie.
I would agree. I'd say, yeah, I mean, Powers Booth head and shoulders above the rest, and then him and the daughter are kind of the ones that are weirdly the standout. Everybody else is, you have, your stereotypical henchmen of the 80s or 90s that wear sunglasses at night. You have your, all the go-tos that
On the
don't really
classic.
say anything. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
I mean,
then
don't.
it's like they tried to focus on the other henchman that takes the chef's wife hostage. And he has that scene, and then you just don't see him again until the very end at the helicopter, which I kept thinking, oh, he's gonna pop up again or be more important because you put all this focus on him of being like this psychotic guy, but oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, no, he seems like he might have some personality, because he has like that kind of set piece where he like kind of is holding the chef's wife's ransom, and then there's a kind of bit where he's kind of like one of those kind of humorous psychopaths that like, and they have this thing where he demands like you know cookies or whatever, and like all that kind of thing. So he seems like he might have like a bit of personality, or there's going to be a bit about him. But yeah, like you say, after he gets his one moment and he kind of does a bit of scenery chewing in that moment, but yeah, after that he's kind of forgotten about, and like he's given really nothing else to do. But I think in his moment and in his scene, he does all right as acting wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like before while we're still close to giving Dorian Harewood his flowers, like he is one of those guys that his screen presence is so intense that he always plays. Like he's very consistent. There's a very high floor with him. He's gonna get you on base, to bring another sport into this podcast. And he was never the biggest, but it was never the biggest name, but he is one of those guys. He's one of those character actors that, like, people who watch a lot of movies, he walks in the room and you're like, okay, we're in competent hands here. Like, the adults are in the room. Powers Boothe, I am 1,000% with you, Craig. Like, head and shoulders the best thing in this movie. And then I think him and the Whitney who plays Emily, I think they're right below him. The scene between him and Tyler, the son, is just so funny. Like, he does such a good job of, like, a guy who does not deal with children having to deal with a child who says no. Like, I really like that moment.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. In terms of, like, the acting, absolutely miles ahead of anybody else as Powers Boothe. But then kind of in probably joint second place is, like, Dorian Harewood as the agent Matthew Hallmark and Whitney Wright as the young daughter Emily McCord are the kind of standout players. And yeah, as much as I enjoy this movie and there's things that I can point to that I enjoy, it's mainly centered around a lot of the action stuff and a lot of the Powers Boothe stuff. And yeah, no, I'm coming to realize just how cardboard most of the cast, 90% of the cast are, and there's like kind of 3 or 4 standouts. Well, essentially 3 standouts.
And honestly, so much of acting, I mean, it's a cliche, but so much of acting is reacting.
Sure.
You do so much with your scene partner. And I kept thinking throughout this movie, like, man, Jean-Claude Van Damme is not giving people anything to play.
No,
it's so hard to interact with him. But even, like, as a director, you also don't want your star to noticeably be the, like, vacuum in the middle of this movie where, like, everybody else is good. So I feel like you do kind of cast towards, like, not showing up Jean-Claude Van Damme. He's almost never on screen with Powers Boothe, and he's almost never on screen with Dorian Harewood. Like, I mean, granted, he's running around a lot. He does a lot on his own. But I think part of it is that there's a ceiling when you can't trust your lead to really carry and to feed the scene partners.
I guess, I mean, like, because we're in the realm of Die Hard knockoffs, I guess, like, we're in very similar territory to Under Siege, where, we're not wanting to show the kind of lack of acting ability of Steven Seagal. So, like, he is mainly in his own movie, beating up henchmen, and Tommy Lee Jones and Gary Busey are in their own movie, kind of pattering back and forth and being evil. So I guess it's very similar to Under Siege in that regard of, like, not wanting to show up the star and just the kind of their weaknesses. Yeah.
And poor Erica Liniak just getting dragged around.
Yeah, no, it's like you gotta have somebody has to be their scene partner, So somebody has to draw the short straw, like.
They had a meeting beforehand, and they all drew the straws.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. I like that approach to screenwriting.
Yeah. Who's it gonna be? Who's gonna be? Who's gonna be
no, there's only one. They're all short straws. Oh no!
God damn it! You've tricked us. You've tricked us. I thought I was gonna avoid Seagal in this fucking shit. Oh. God damn it. Can't I just be hanging out with Tommy Lee Jones in a bandana? No.
It's good work if you can get it.
Yeah, it is good work if you can get it. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's become increasingly hard to defend this movie. But I do think I guess that I'm going to be totally honest, I mean, obviously, a lot of my enjoyment or love for this movie comes from nostalgia. It's one of the ones of the Van Damme ones that I like kind of watched quite a bit, much like Kickboxer and Bloodsport and Hard Target and stuff like that. So like, um, so yeah, no, for sure, a lot of it comes from that. But like, I do think there is things to praise or appreciate.
Oh, sure.
That are not just Powers Booth. It's mainly Powers Booth centered, right enough. But I do think that, like, it kind of cutting towards the direction. I think Peter Hyams is not like, I wouldn't necessarily put him in the echelon of great directors, but I think he is a good director. I think you generally get solid work from him, and I think that he is like unusual in that he is one of the few kind of mainstream directors, like Steven Soderbergh, who is often his own cinematographer, and I think he generally does a good job. And like, some of the shots we get are pretty incredible, particularly towards the end, where we get that shot that goes from the ice right up until the roof of the arena. I think there's certain shots like that are pretty great stuff. Would you
Mhm.
agree?
Yes. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I would.
Oh, yeah, like the movie is annoyingly competent.
Hmm.
Like at one point I made a note, this movie is it's competent with neither passion nor interest. Because it just didn't feel like it was interested in most of the aspects of this film. Like there wasn't, you know, we didn't really see the team come together with the bad guys. We don't really, the plan is very, very, very simple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
idea that the vice president of the United States is at Game Seven. One of the funnier lines is a media blackout, and it's like it's Game Seven of the Stanley Cup. There's not a media blackout.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, that makes sense.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, like at one point, I'm just watching this movie, like, where are the other security guards? Like, this is a crowded arena. This is a sold out game in Pittsburgh. That's a pretty big city. Like, and again, the vice president of the United States is here. That wasn't a moment, like that wasn't a last minute like whim decision.
Mm,
So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
yeah, like I'm like, okay, first of all, where's Jean-Claude Van Damme supposed to be? Because I have no idea where he's stationed as a
Mm.
security guard. But then, are there any other outside of the old guy that's checking badges kind of at the beginning?
I Yeah, I feel like, so going off what you were saying initially, Adam, where like if it wasn't so competently made, like then it could be in that realm of like, oh well, it's so bad it's good type of aspect. But
Yeah.
go
Mm.
going into the like security guard, I think it almost feels like, so when the FBI agent, when Hallmark flips, it it to me felt like a quick like script edit to be like, oh, we have to explain why there aren't more
Yes.
bodyguards around or something. So we're just gonna say he's bad. So he must have did something to make sure nobody else would be around the vice president right now. Or it was like they're just trying to figure out the plot hole really quickly last minute.
All right, Craig, I know you have a heart out soon, so I'm just going to
Yeah.
say this is the most savage thing I'm going to say about this movie. I promise, Scott, after this, it gets better.
Oh no, that hurt. Sorry.
But the most savage, like, this movie reminded me of the first movie I ever made back
Mm.
in fifth grade. In fifth grade, I was part of the Gifted Kids program, and one of our assignments was to make a short film. And
Mm.
I had just seen Die Hard,
Mm.
which was now my favorite movie. So I
Mm.
wanted to remake Die Hard, and I was a fifth grader with the resources, instincts, and creativity of a fifth grader in a gifted class. It played like I understood what movies were, and that like people, it's a movie is like people doing things,
Mm.
but I had no idea why they do things. I had no idea how they should do the things. I had no idea how to properly block them doing the things.
Mm.
And there were times in this movie where it just seemed like it was kind of directing itself. And there were times when it doesn't. But there were moments where like literally every single person on screen looks bored. And it's, you're like, what's going on behind the camera? Like why is there just no passion or interest in what's happening? Um, and then at times there is, but that is the most savage thing that I felt like I could make this movie in fifth grade.
Wow. That is pretty savage. Um, I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, you mentioned that you feel like there's not a lot of passion there. Yeah, I guess like Peter Hyams he's a bit of a journeyman director, I guess, and like certainly reading the background, neither Hyams or Van Damme had any connection or fandom to ice hockey previously, and like I'm not sure. Hyams has directed a lot of action movies, but I'm not sure if that's necessarily his passion. I think he's just kind of he fell into directing action movies
Yeah.
and he just
Well,
got
and
into
dude made the
production movies.
Relic. Like
Yeah, no,
that's
I don't.
one where I haven't seen it in a while, but I really liked it back in the day. This might be my version where like nostalgia is coloring it and it's not actually good. But I when I saw his name, I was excited because I'm like, oh, Relic guy, excellent,
No,
Yeah,
I watched it, well, probably a year ago now, and it holds up in many aspects. Yeah,
excellent.
it's decent. Yeah.
Yeah,
The Relic is one of those. The Relic is one of those movies. I feel like I enjoyed it, but like for some reason, I can never get the Relic and Mimic straight in my head.
fair.
And
Yeah.
I just like, and sometimes I'm referencing one while talking about, talking about the other. Like I just, but I enjoy them both. I know I enjoy them.
Mhm.
I remember like when I saw them in my teens. I remember enjoying both as like fun monster movies or whatever. But I can never
Oh yeah.
get them entirely straight in my head for some reason. I have them interconnected.
I
Um,
saw Mimic in the theater opening weekend as well.
oh, cool. Oh, even a butchered Del Toro film is still fun.
Yup. Yup.
um, yeah. Oh, so
Okay, so I want to follow that up with a thing that I like.
you were the thing you like. Oh, perfect. Okay, great. Go ahead, say.
Okay, the Zamboni delivering dead bodies.
Oh yes.
So much thought was put into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I love the I want to meet that person on the terrorist crew or whatever
yeah.
they are, the thieves. Like who had the idea to like, okay, we're gonna put the bodies in here and then we're gonna kill this guy and we're gonna like strap everything down so he's gonna drive out. Like you're taking over the arena didn't have this much thought put into it.
Yeah.
I love that moment. I
Oh,
like it a lot. Yeah.
yes, yes. This is very much like one of those moments like the type of moment you get in horror movies. Where the kind of like final girl character is running around, running into different rooms and stuff like that, then runs into a room, turns on the light, and the killer has artfully arranged all her dead friends in the one
Yeah.
room at the end of the movie. Like this is that's this is the equivalent of that. You know, you're like, oh man, that must have taken a while to like. I mean,
Yeah.
Exactly.
like a lot of effort. But yeah, no, I was also highly amused by that, and just the sheer effort and thought that went into that particular sequence. Is there so I think we're going to kind of run out of time with Craig before we kind of
Yep.
wrap up our
Okay.
thoughts on the episode. So Craig, I know you've only got 5 minutes before you're hard out, so do you
Okay.
have any kind of last things you want to say about sudden death? If any of them happen to be complimentary, that would be cool.
No, I mean the ones that we already mentioned in terms of
Mhm.
the like kind of shining stars in it. are complementary. I like it's something where I was watching, and I will say the Zamboni moment is great, and then there are many moments where you're kind of like there is something really fun here that you could do. You could make something great with it. And I could the mascot fight, you kind of see these glimmers of it again with the Zamboni, the mascot fight. Even with I think it ends up becoming overkill, the idea of the bombs being in there. Like, again, there's like a moment where or if it was just one big bomb or something where the stakes were raised. Um And yeah, the relationship between with him and the FBI agent
Mm,
for the flip, and then to have the flip, I think I almost wish you kind of again that relationship was built better or built more throughout, so that when the flip happens, um, it was like more substantial. But yeah, I don't think it's a horrible film in terms of how it's made or things like that. And I think there would be a fun version of having it be the the seventh game in the Stanley Cup Finals, and this happens like a terrorists or thieves take over, and this idea of that. I think the breaks are too long for the amount of time they get, and I think Adam will you kind of mentioned it before we start recording, but I did like the plan aspect of being like, okay, this amount of money needs to be into our account by the end of this, third, and then by the end of this, and like you see the building of the stakes.
mm,
Again, it's like all the components are there, but it was just the something went haywire, and I don't know if which person it is to blame or if any, in some way, or they just weren't the right cast or the right
mm.
people to be involved with it or something. And it's definitely the story, and we've talked about this before. It feels more highlighting the arena rather than highlighting the hockey itself.
Yeah,
Which I
no,
wish.
I get that. Um, and yeah, I mean, like maybe part of the issue is the kind of Frankensteining of the script from
Yeah.
being of more and out like
Yeah.
more of an out and out parody to um to becoming a more semi-serious action film.
Well,
Um,
there's also the cliche that, a million things have to go right to make a good
Yeah.
movie.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
this is just one of those movies where a million things didn't go right, and so you have a movie. Like it is
Yeah.
competently made. It has moments that are very enjoyable. Like yeah, it just didn't it wasn't touched by the divine.
Mm, mm, mm. And I think like yeah, I mean I think that again going back to the kind of direction and stuff like that, and you were talking about Dorian Harewood having a high floor. I think like Peter Hyams also like has a high floor of like even when his films are not so good, they're usually solidly made. Maybe not like spectacularly made, but like solidly made pictures. So you're always going to get a certain level. But yes, I know you have to go, Craig. So we
Yes.
will wave you off.
Okay.
Thanks, thanks for coming
Of
on
course.
board again,
Yeah.
and hopefully we will get you on for the rest of the year's output. But we'll talk about that another time. And yeah, I'll catch you later.
Of course. Catch you
I'll
later.
carry the
Yeah.
banner, Craig.
Yes. Sounds good. I can't wait to hear what is said after I leave and listen to it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. All right, so it's just me and you, Adam. Now, this is uh, an unusually structured form of the podcast.
Yeah.
Since we last recorded, as a podcaster, I've generally become much more disciplined, and there's been a lot of episodes that have come in at the 90-minute mark, and there's been a lot of episodes where we've mainly 90% of the time we've actually just talked about the movie. Um, but yes, You know, sometimes you got to mix it up, and sometimes you gotta go back to the old ways
Yeah,
of
sorry, man. I like my tangents.
so yeah, I'm sure the listeners will enjoy this retro episode of being tangent filled and only somewhat talking about the movie.
If I can turn on one of them to hockey, I've done my job.
Well, I don't know. Like you definitely. I mean, like between this chat and like ESPN being added to my Disney Plus, I mean, it feels like I'm being pushed in a hockey direction. To be honest, and I thought I was just mainly going to watch the basketball, but like you know,
Gary Bettman would be so proud. He's the commissioner of the NHL.
is he the commissioner of the NHL?
Yes.
I had no idea. I had like I had no idea that was the commissioner of the NHL. I know who the commissioner of the NFL is and the NBA is, but not him. So that's cool, and it's fun as well because like I'm on the NBA mailing list, so I get like an email thanking me. I presume
Right.
personally from Adam Silver each season, being like, thanks for being on the mailing list again. I'm sure that is written by him himself.
He types that up and hits send with those spindly fingers.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure he does. I'm quite convinced that I'm getting a specific from Adam Silver to myself, and not just some random person who deals with the MailChimp.
The social media intern, yeah.
Yeah, the social media intern that hits the button on the MailChimp, that goes out to subscribers. Yes, that's how I like to think of it.
So I have a sudden death question for you.
Sudden death question. Perfect. Yes.
All right. So there's the scene when the helicopters are coming in and the guy with the rocket launcher shoots down one of them. And we see the guy who's both helicopters that are approaching have a gentleman hanging from a rope underneath. And the one that's hit by the rocket, the guy drops and we see him drop and drop and drop. And then he falls onto a car and is likely dead. The car, the windows crash. But where is the helicopter wreckage? Because you never see the helicopter come down, and then there's a wide shot, and there's the explosions that happened before all of this, but you don't see any helicopter wreckage.
Okay.
Shouldn't there be some?
I would imagine. Yeah. No. That is a good question. That is a very good question, Adam. And I want to direct you to Gene Quintano. He is Gene.Quintano at
Yeah. Because like when Craig was saying, like, it feels like I missed something. Like I was watching it and I was like, wait a second, and I backed it up. Like, did I just blink at the wrong time? No.
It is an incredibly odd moment. And yeah, no, like you say, the guy falls and pancakes himself on the top of the car, and the helicopter is teleported elsewhere. I honestly, yeah, it's a baffling moment and a fair question. Yeah, which I do not have. I mean, I can't even come up with a good comedy answer, to be honest.
It's okay.
But yeah, no. I guess like again, it maybe speaks to your thing of like, maybe there should have been a little bit greater attention to detail throughout the movie, or like and like you say, I think as much as I enjoy this movie, I think it's a fun time, and I think it kind of rollicks along in its own fun way. I can definitely see its flaws. I can definitely see that, like, not a lot of the characters pop. I can definitely see the script is a bit of a hodgepodge. The dialogue is often a bit flat, apart from the dialogue that Powers Boothe is delivering. And yeah, so there is that. But I don't know. I think I do think it largely gets by on its action though. And I think the action is generally good that we get. I mean, I guess there's kind of langers in the film of like just going around the arena trying to disarm bombs in a simple fashion that we talked about. That's maybe a bit unsatisfying.
Well,
But
part of why this movie was rated R in America was for a substantial amount of strong violence,
hmm,
comma, and some language.
yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that makes sense. But like, I think like I find like the smattering of martial arts that we get, the I think the the gunfights are kind of well shot, well choreographed, and I think yeah, we get some fun explosions, and um, we end the film with one of the best stroke most hilarious helicopter explosions ever filmed.
Yup.
And like, you know, how can you really talk down a film that gives us that moment of joy?
There was so much going into that. Like, I love that Powers Booth puts on a disguise that is a mustache and a jacket and a hat. For the like 5 minutes he's around a crowd that is running madly and not paying attention to him, just so that he can like get onto a ladder under a helicopter, which feels like if you're in a disguise is going to bring a lot of attention to you.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so like and by that point, like I love how Jean-Claude Van Damme is like a meathead MacGyver in this movie and like makes a bomb out of jars that has a very targeted blast radius so that he can like swing down from the seal of the roof and like get into the owner's box and like get his daughter back and be completely unconcerned with the bad guys. But like there's so much going into it, and then just watching that compositing with the helicopter going down and that explosion and Powers Booth like getting so much time to just keep eating scenery. Like, oh yes, I like that a lot too.
Yes, that lingering reaction shot. I mean, like, I love a good, villain death reaction shot. You know, that moment of like, oh, I'm fucked. I'm about to die.
Yeah.
Like, I love a good one of those, and this is one of the best. I mean, his reaction shot is chef's kiss amazing. And
Yup.
I think like there's moments like that smattered throughout the movie that give me so much joy that like that's why I keep overlooking the flaws, and it's not until like I kind of I'm talking to somebody like you that I kind of recognize like yeah, it does have quite a lot of deficiencies in some basic storytelling elements.
I have a special knack for ruining movies for people. I'm sorry.
No, it's
Uh,
fine. It's fine. It's fine.
but okay, so there's a second thing that I unreservedly love about this movie.
Sure, go.
And Craig touched on it earlier. You touched on it earlier. It's the moment when, uh, for reasons, and I did write down. Where is it? Is it the third page? There's an actual. I wrote down a note. I don't know. Why does anybody do anything in a movie? Uh, but when he takes the goalie's uniform and enters the game, or it goes to the bench and then is sent into the game by the coach. And I love all of this. I love the fact that he does not want them to come anywhere near him. That like, you get to hear him like, no, 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 stay over there, stay over there. And then when the guy's coming out, I was like, oh God. And he makes a really nice stack glove save, and everybody goes nuts. Save of the year! Oh my God! Wow! And he like gets to have the moment of like, oh my God, I just stopped a shot in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup. And like he gets to share it with his son. He does the sign language and blows his son's mind. And like it's really beautiful. And then the game starts back up and he realizes, oh no, I might have to do that again. So he just takes his gloves off, taps a Chicago Blackhawk on the shoulder, and then punches him and gets thrown out. And I was just like, the whole dad fantasy of like I get to go into a game and like save the day also dudes were just saying save of the year. The next goalie that goes in makes the exact same save. Like, it is fantastic. Chef's kiss. I love that entire sequence.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you're absolutely right. It's like the peak dad fantasy. Like
Mhm.
being the hero of the of the big sports game of the year, whether that be the Stanley Cup or the Super Bowl or the World Series or whatever whatever it is, the NBA Finals in the American kind of sports. Um, yeah, no, it's pretty well, and like that kind of. Made me think of like another thing that we've not mentioned. I do enjoy, and as far as I'm aware, the commentators Mike Lang and Paul Steigerwald were real commentators,
Yes.
real local Pittsburgh commentators. Which is again is like a uniquely American thing, like
Yeah.
because like in the UK everything's on like BBC, ITV, Sky, like everything like no one team has a set of commentators or like a local area commentators that just commentate in their local area. Apart from on local radio, we don't have like there is like local radio commentators that might but that's like a different thing. So there's no that's like a uniquely American thing to American television. We don't have a equivalent of in the UK.
Oh yeah,
But
the TV deals for sports are for teams are just ridiculous and a huge part of the the money imbalance that
yeah,
you're seeing right now in American sports. Yeah.
yeah, right. But no, I think like I mean I know they're real commentators playing commentators, but sometimes people are real athletes playing fictional athletes and they're bad at that. So I think
Right.
like they I think they did well in the film, and I think that like part of like the enjoyment level of like that silly sequence for example is added to by their presence. I enjoyed their presence throughout the movie. I don't know, like,
Yes.
did you feel the same? Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's so fun. Like I get what's so like going back to the Die Hard aspect. I started thinking about like, yeah, John McClane never got to play center field for the or shortstop for the Yankees, and I guess it would be catcher because that's the one with the mask. But like that
Yeah.
connected the dots of like, oh, this was originally more of a parody, and this is literally a beat from Naked Gun where Leslie Nielsen takes over as the umpire,
Yeah.
Enrico Palazzo.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like or no, sorry, the umpire, and he had been Enrico Palazzo, the guy that sang the anthem, right?
Yeah. Dancing. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, having those guys, especially like it's the thing. The whole thing was created by the owners of the Penguins. Of course, they use the local guys.
Mm.
But again, it is Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Bob Costas is calling that game. Like the national
Sure.
guys are calling that game.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
but I'm not putting that as like a ding on the movie at all. It's just like a stupid thought that pinged around the back of my stupid brain. But no, I loved seeing those guys. I met Mike back in the day because I played for a team that traveled. And we were in Pittsburgh, and I think he called one, which was a lot of fun. He seemed like a decent guy. I really didn't know him, but yeah, I like that too.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just saying that he actually recently passed away in February. That's sad.
No,
But no, I think he does a good job, and his commentating partner as well. I think they both do a good job, and
yeah.
add that little bit extra spice. And of course, they get to say the title as well, so that's fun. It's always fun when you get the title in the movie. It's always an applause moment. So like,
It's such a good one too. Sudden death, sudden death. Just in case you missed it the first time.
exactly. It's great delivery. Um, so yeah, I guess like we have covered the highs and lows of sudden death, and we've also covered a lot of ice hockey. So yeah, I think this is kind of where we wrap it. There is going to be no sudden death in this episode.
Well, one more thing that I really liked about
Oh,
it.
maybe there is going to be sudden death. Okay, go.
There's one of the later scenes in the owner's box with the vice president and Powers Booth.
Mhm.
I should start saying Raymond J. Barry. Um,
Yeah.
with Raymond J. Barry and Powers Booth. The I made a note. The man has his priorities because like they kill all of the staff, but he spared the bartender so that he could get his drink. Because there's a shot where you see the bartender just standing perfectly still, staying quiet behind the bar, and he's got his like scotch or whiskey or whatever that he clearly like was just served by her. And like I love that he spared the bartender. Like he has his priorities straight.
Yeah. You know, like yeah, when you're doing a big terrorist act like that, you gotta have your priorities straight, and
Yes.
you gotta be able to be assured that somebody is going to make you a good drink. It's a talent. So yes, no, very. I think that's very good.
Also,
Uh,
this film was sponsored by Zap lighter fluid because that's a little squirt gun, and that person's entire body is on fire when he sprays him with the lighter fluid.
yeah.
Like, I was just like, oh, this is fun. Like, yeah. Sorry, I crap on the movie so much. I wanted to make sure I got in the stuff that I really liked.
Excellent, excellent. That's great. Yes. This movie is brought to you by the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Civic Arena, and Zap Lighters Fluid.
Got a light? Use Zap lighter fluid.
Amazing.
Yes.
I think that's a great place to end it. It just leaves
Okay.
me to thank you very much for coming on the show again, Adam. It's been a few years. It's always a joy to record with you, and this has been absolutely the same, even if we have differing opinions on this movie. Is there anything you have in the pipeline that you want to promote, or do you want to give people your social media, or anything you want to say before we end this show?
Um, no, I mean I'm writing a couple things.
Mhm.
We'll see if I get to make them.
Cool.
I told you beforehand. I left New York. I moved back home to Cincinnati. And no, I've just been kind of being a person again. Like to be honest with you, I wanted to come on because I kind of missed. I missed talking to you.
Mm.
I really enjoy my time on the podcast, whichever podcast we're talking on. And it on to just be completely honest, the movie got a lot of acclaim and it kind of went to my head, and I wanted to come home and get my feet back on the ground.
Mhm.
So it's kind of why you didn't hear from me for a long time.
Right.
Nobody heard from me because I had a nervous breakdown and just went through a lot of stuff. So I'm just happy to be back. I have nothing to promote. You're welcome to follow me on Instagram if you don't. It's not Adam S. I am sometimes there. I don't really use anything else. I know that I still have a Twitter because that's what you and I DM through.
Mhm.
But no, I just wanted to come on and talk to you and Craig.
Perfect. Well, it's been much appreciated, Adam, as it always has been. Yeah, it's always a joy to record with you. So I guess that just leaves me to say that's the end of another episode. I can't actually remember what is next month's episode in July. I think it might be Tank Girl, but who knows? Anyway, so maybe you'll be joining us again next month for Tank Girl. Maybe I've got the schedule wrong in my head and it's something else. But whatever it is, you can guarantee it'll be another fun action movie from 1995. Until then, though, see ya.